Well, good afternoon, everybody. I may have a Dutch name, but I'm born in Canada, so my Afrikaans is zero and my Dutch is poor. So I'll speak in English. Anyway, it's great to be with you, and I've learned a lot. This is my third time to be in South Africa to visit with farmers in different parts of the country. And this time I was very lucky. Let me just back up 1 minute. I'm here as an invited guest from Potato, South Africa, as the president of the World Potato Congress. I know many of you have been to the congresses before, the one in Dublin in 2022, the one in Australia 2024, sorry. And so you're familiar a little bit with what our work is all about. And I've been now charged with being the president of that organization, and we're planning the next Congress on your continent in Kenya. So I'm counting on many of you being there. And what I've learned in the last couple of days, what you're doing amazing work that not only benefits Africa, but benefits the world. And I'm from Canada, and Canada, I would say we're definitely second class to you as far as what you're doing for research and development work and producing fantastic crops of potatoes. So congratulations on that for a starter. And Potato South Africa has done a great job of doing this. So I'm very lucky to have been invited by them to come again. And this time I spent a couple days, we were actually almost 3 days, up in Lipo province. And there's several farmers here, Masi and Sanpapi farm, and there's 6 other farms I visited with Willie and others in the team, and we learned a lot about emerging farmers, about established farmers, the challenges you face, and I really appreciated the frank discussions that they had for different opinions on different subjects, so I could listen and learn. So I'm not sure I'm better equipped to speak today or not, but I had a great time the last few days traveling. I'm going to take you on a bit of a journey back to 1960. I grew up, I was born in Canada, and in 1961 and 62, my mother said to us at our kitchen table, "Eat all the food on your plate." And we say to Mom, "Why do we have to eat all the food on our plate if we're not hungry anymore, had enough to eat?" And she said, "Because the children in China are hungry." I said, "Well, China's a long way away from Canada, and but the point is, people were hungry in this world in 1960. In 61, 62, China probably lost 40 million people due to famine during those few years. And hunger was everywhere in the world. That's when we had the start of what I would call the Green Revolution. And that started with wheat production that really helped develop in Mexico first, but then in South Asia, corn in South America and Mexico, and then around the world, and the potato. The Potato Center was formed in the International Potato Center in Peru in 1971, and I joined that center as a scientist, and I can say that we were as part of that Green Revolution as well, that has helped produce more food for more people during those last 65 years. Norman Borlaug received the World Nobel Prize for his work, and he was really considered our grandfather, or our father in my case, who led the work for him on wheat, but for all of us who together helped feed the world, so to speak. If you look at the level of poverty, and poverty has dropped tremendously during this last 60 years. You can look at how it's gone down from very high levels to now roughly 800,000 people on the planet today are still hungry. And most of those are in Africa and in South Asia. Okay, so that's where the challenges still lie of how to feed the population. This picture is very valuable to understand that 60% of the world's population lives in Asia. And Asia is a continent that has what we call the third pole. The Himalayan mountains this Himalayan mountains is like the third pole, which is as glaciers and snow and ice, and that provides the water for the rivers of China and the rivers of the subcontinent, and that's where the people have multiplied rapidly because of the alluvial soils and levels of fertility that's not only in the land but also in the people to cause the population explosions to take place. So this is where the challenges have always been in the last 65 years, but things are looking up. And I think the challenges now still remain in parts of Africa. And I was recently at a congress in China that revolved around production of food crops in Asia. And generally, the consensus is that yields are plateauing for the rice and for the wheat. And part of it is related to solar radiation and ability for the sunshine to permeate through the pollution or whatever else there is, and the crops aren't responding in the same way as before. So potatoes is playing an important role in filling that gap. So if you look at a map now of potato production in the world by continent, you'll notice that the biggest shift is in the orange. This orange shift is the potato production in Asia. And now Asia produces more than half the world's potatoes. 60-some% of the population of the world is there. Potato production exceeds population percentage-wise of the world. So they've done an amazing job in India and the subcontinent and East Asia on growing potatoes to help with food security. Meanwhile, Africa's at the bottom here, but still significant. It's also increasing. And I think a lot of this can be attributed to the East African Rift Valley, North Africa, and South Africa, your country. If you look at it on a totally by country by volume size, China dominates, India's number 2, and then many countries follow. I was lucky to work in Bangladesh, working there in the early 70s, and Bangladesh now is one of the top 5 countries in the world producing potatoes. It's hard to imagine that could happen so quickly, from almost nothing to what it does today as a food security crop. Same with India, Pakistan, Nepal. That whole region has really blossomed with potato production. The African continent is coming along more gradually, but also increasing rapidly. If you look at the percentage of food that's being consumed in the world today, wheat and rice still dominate. But the potato role is increasing and is very significant. Now, the third most important food crop in our world today. Maize, of course, maybe is a larger crop as a crop, but most of it's for feed for animals. So I think we're in the right business of working with potatoes. And what I've seen here yesterday and today, you're doing amazing work in the research side of improving potato production. And your now yields of 50 tons per hectare is exceptionally high. Let's have a look at here. If you look at the world map of production statistics, a lot of the red is in Africa. That's the low yields. Bolivia and all of Africa has still very low potato yields. It shows here that you're up to 40 tons per hectare, but actually you should have the dark green color like that because you're over 40 tons per hectare now, based on the statistics I've read. So the challenge for us at the World Potato Congress is how do we help the countries with the low yields, most of Africa, parts of Asia still too, improve your yields to get maximum production per unit area, per unit time, per unit water, per unit of fertilizer that you apply. And seed production has been one of the main focuses that we've worked on globally and making good progress with that, but there are other factors remain as well that need to be resolved. So many of you were probably in Dublin at the Congress we had there, and there we launched what we call the Dublin Declaration. The Dublin Declaration was a strategy that we adopted, that we would want to develop partnerships between developed countries and developing countries, between institutions, to help develop sustainable livelihoods for people in the countries where the red production levels exist. And this has been one of our main focuses, and we've involved many developing countries who want to get help from developed countries to work together to resolve their constraints to production. I'll just share with you two examples. This woman was at the meetings in Dublin, and she leads a cooperative group of farmers in the northwestern part of Uganda. But she works with the Belgian organizations Trias and a few other organizations with equipment and other technologies. So she has been benefiting from that collaboration with the Belgians to improve production in her area of Uganda and resolve storage issues, seed production issues, fertility issues, even grading issues. So this has been a great success story where we link a country with a project and then work together. I'm personally involved with a project in Yemen. And Yemen, of course, is a country that's war-torn. It's had a civil war for years. Now with the Houthi rebels, it's a big mess with the fight with the Houthi, Iran-supported Houthis attacking Israel and Israel bombing their places. But yet, the people there are starving, actually. And there I'm working with university and some business people to help them with seed production. We introduced some new varieties from the International Potato Center. And together, we're working together in amazing ways they always have no foreign exchange to bring in seed from Europe. So we're producing their own seed now through technology that we've introduced to them to make it happen. So we're very pleased with how this kind of collaborations can be worked out. One of the things that we've noticed over the years, which is a reality, the International Potato Center is no longer the same kind of organization that it used to be when I worked for it. I worked for it for many years, and then I was the board chair of the organization. Now the funding has decreased drastically for the international centers, and more is you're depending on your own national programs to do the work. And that's where the World Potato Congress tries to step in to connect and help bring knowledge and share knowledge together across the globe. And we're doing that through different thematic groups and workshops, etc. So now I come to really what I was asked to talk about what's new in the world. And I've heard a lot of what's new already right here at this meeting. But I just listed some things that are new globally that's happening very rapidly. I think the whole thing of GPS, soil sampling, and grid sampling, and all these kind of things have really helped a lot of farmers in many countries. Drones for scouting, drones for spraying, more efficient ways to use water, variety development. At SIP, we do a lot of work now on zinc and iron, increasing zinc and iron levels in potato varieties for health of many people who lack those essential nutrients. Climate change and varietal development for that. The use of cisgenics to put in rapidly new traits that are needed for certain diseases or whatever it may be that you want in potato varieties. That's being done now very quickly and very easily. Soil health, what we talked about here this morning is all about soil health. That's a problem all over the world. And local breeding efforts, where you involve genetics times environment, times of breeding work, is being done more and more in different parts of the world as well. Let me just highlight a few of the key things that have really happened in the world as a whole. The first one I want to mention is just aeroponics. Aeroponics, really, it was catalyzed primarily in China. There was a terrible earthquake in Sichuan province in 2006 or 2007. And after that terrible earthquake, the World Bank gave SIP some money to start aeroponics as a way to rapidly multiply mini-tubers, nuclear seed. And that has taken off in numerous countries. And here's a picture of André Lachance, one of my colleagues in Canada. He is probably I'd say he's one of the best scientists and producers of aeroponic mini-tubers. And I was very lucky yesterday to meet with Rascal Seed, doing the same thing right here in South Africa, but doing it very quietly. But I'm linking him now with our group, so we can work together with him as well. But aeroponics has been a revolution in many countries of the world for producing mini-tubers very rapidly on large scale very quickly. I was just in Saudi Arabia. There they're going to do this. They're going to stop importing Dutch seed. They're going to make their own through this technology. Just an example where how things have evolved so rapidly with this technology in many countries. Most African countries are still having a challenge with aeroponics, but they're working on it and they'll be successful. This is another revolution that's taken place, is what I would call apical rooted cuttings. This actually started when I started working in Vietnam after the Vietnam War. And there they, again, were desperate for seed. And a young biologist, started to work in his bathtub in his little apartment with tissue culture plants that we provided from SIP. And there he started multiplying them and then got farmers to multiply them. And from one tissue culture plant, they could produce thousands of cuttings that they could transplant into the field and grow healthy potatoes. This revolution took place in Vietnam and many other parts of Southeast Asia, the Philippines, for example, and Indonesia. That took off in India, southern parts of India, parts of the Middle East, and then it also now is rapidly being adopted in East Africa. This is a picture I took the other day in Kenya, where Stockman Rosen, which is a Dutch Kenyan company, produces millions of apical rooted cuttings. Like you see on the left, this gentleman here has a cutting that's rooted and ready to be transplanted. This is all being produced for that from one tissue culture plants. And then this is a farmer who grows 800 hectares of potatoes, all coming from this material as a starting material in the greenhouse that's multiplied and goes further. So with that system, he's getting yields like you're getting yields here in South Africa, 50 tons per hectare easily. So just by having the right variety and the right clean planting material, the revolution is taking place. And this will be talked about a lot at our Congress in Kenya, both aeroponics as well as this whole technology of apical rooted cuttings. The diploid potato. I know you've had some experience with that here already as in South Africa. The diploid potato is really, I would say it's still kind of a dream, okay? But it's going to come to reality. And I've been very privileged to work with, I was a professor at the university in China for a number of years on a part-time basis, a visiting professor. And I helped the Chinese obtain the diploid material from SIP in Peru, from Canada, and other places to help them start a diploid breeding program. And Chun-Si, who you see here in the picture with me, this picture here, Chun-Si is one of the outstanding potato breeders who has dedicated herself and her whole big team of people to doing it right. You take diploid parents that you like, you do inbreeding till you get homozygous parents that are very much inbred and very stunted. You cross them, and you get progenies that have hybrid vigor, heterosis effect, and you have uniform progenies. Inbreeding has to go to 6 or 7 times to get homozygous parents. Now, Solenta and HSBC are also doing the same thing, maybe not quite the same level of detail, but these are all efforts by different companies and universities to cause this to be what I would call the next great revolution. The vision is that the true seed from such crosses can be pelleted and sown directly as if it was corn or wheat or potato or any kind of a legume around it, a soybean, like a rounded seed, you could sow directly into the field. And this will work well in the tropics where you have unlimited seasons. For countries like Canada, I have my doubts that it'll be rapidly accepted. For certain markets in South Africa, it might be accepted, but this is coming. It's coming fast, but it's not there yet. Okay, that's what I want to say. And just to highlight this, Henry de Jong, Professor Henry de Jong here on the left is a Dutchman, who's a Canadian, of course. He did his PhD on diploid potatoes back when he at Wisconsin, University of Wisconsin back in the 60s. He did his whole career, he did this as a hobby, diploid breeding. The government of Canada never accepted it then. So when I went to work in China, I said, Henry, please help us with your material. His material was all saved in the United States. I brought Henry to China, to see the work of Chunsi. And people like that are so valuable because they have such a rich experience from back in the 60s till now to share with young scientists like Chunsi and others, and that has been a great benefit to help move the work ahead in a correct, scientific, cautious way. Back in the 80s and 90s, when I was with SIP, we did a lot of TPS work, or true potato seed work, with tetraploids. We found certain crosses that produce fairly uniform progenies. This work continues to this day in parts of India. Here on the right, you'll see a picture of, this is probably a 2-hectare field where they grow male and female parents of tetraploids, and these women are all doing the crossing work in the field to produce large kilograms full of botanical seed of different crosses that are preferred by the farmers. Those are then sold to the farmers, and they grow the crops from those and keep that seed and replant it. It's been an amazing success story that continues for 30, 40 years now, and it's distributed all across the poorer parts of India. So it's happening. So we've talked a lot here the last few days about water. And drip irrigation, we talked about pivots. And I was just in Saudi Arabia, where water is more valuable than oil, okay, much more valuable. And there they have now made a law, basically it's a law, that no pivots can no longer be used for potatoes. So at the center point of the pivot, they have then these lines that go across the center of the field, and from there they can, with drip lines, irrigate their potato fields up to 450 meters in length. And I was impressed with how well that works. And their water saving is about 35 to 40%. And this way they can still maintain the water table way down, because they have no rivers in Saudi Arabia, and manage. And what's the beauty there, the drip lines are only used once. And then after the harvest, the drip line goes over the machine, drops down, it's laying on the ground, like you can see here. These are all recycled and redone to be used again as new material the following year. Works very well. For the wheat, which is a required crop that farmers must grow for the government, they use a drag line system of water between the circular rows of wheat that's planted in the field. And this works by law, they have to do this. So water is something very special there. A couple of pictures of our farm. You've asked, farmers like to talk to farmers about what they do. So I would like to see 8 farmers here. Our farm is a sort of a new farm. After I quit working overseas, I came back to farm, and my daughter and son-in-law farm now with me. And they do all the work, actually. And we grow potatoes for the chipping industry. And we do cut our seed, which is something that you don't do here very often. We cut the seed, treat it, store it for about 2 weeks, let it get warmed up, and then we plant it. We have 2 8-row planters on our farm that plant the crop. But how did we get to this point? And this is where I want to just share with you, this is the harvest. We generally harvest we have 2 8-row windrowers. These do 8 rows each. And then the harvester picks up 3 rows plus the windrow material between the furrows. So this is how we grow our crop of about 600 hectares during a very limited time period. And we store our potatoes last year's crop up till last week in July. So it's a long haul storage for us. And the cash flow is pretty tough because you have to wait a whole long time before you get your money. But I want to talk about this. So we've been doing work on sustainability on our farm for a long time. And we worked with rye, rotation crop. We had rye, the cover crop, clover. And what we've done now, and this has been a most recent adoption, and I've heard this from yesterday's talk and today's talk, we grow millet, African millet. And this is what we will grow the millet for a whole season. We'll plant it in maybe May. We'll chop it in late June. Again, maybe in August. Just chop it and leave it all in the ground. Chop it again in October or late November or early November. So we do 3 times we chop the millet, and leave it all there. And then in the fall, we just leave it, or we work it into the ground very gently. And that's how we start our whole process. So the reduction of nematodes, verticillium wilt, and plus adding organic matter is all done through the use of millet. We can afford to do this not on all our fields, but on our sandy ground, where we think we need to do this, this is what we do. And then if we have a rotation crop of a grain plus rye in the fall, we like growing rye because it's very vigorous and fast, we do deep ripping. So these rippers are going down about 30 centimeters, so 40 centimeters, and these have flanged teeth at the bottom. So we leave the ground cover stays like this all year, winter long, till the spring, and this ripping is just right zoned where the planter will do its work. And this is how in the spring we'll then cultivate that field twice and plant. Very simple. So there's no wind erosion, no water erosion, and you leave the microbial life alone all autumn and all winter until you're ready to plant. So this is sort of our way of trying to be economical and keep things going to pay the bills. We don't get no revenue here, but it pays with better crops of potatoes the following year. By the way, we grow potatoes every other year on our land. Not like here where you have to do 4 year rotation. I'm also a private potato breeder, and we breed new varieties on our farm. And my varieties are developed for the chip industry with some resistances and different traits we want for the chip industry in Canada and the United States. And actually, I have one variety also now I sold the plant breeder's rights to a company in China. So this is my hobby. I have a little greenhouse where each plant is these are all different crosses, and each plant is genetically different from any other one. Between these two sticks is one family, another family, another family, my crossing work, and my goal of finding a new winner again. And this picture here you see, this is one of my varieties we're growing on our farm now. About 1/4 of our crop is this variety, compared to a Frito-Lay variety beside it. So it's doing very well. Okay, I know I'm running over time. So when I looked at what's going on in South Africa, I see that the issues that come first are the issues of market demand, water availability, potato tuber moths were mentioned frequently. Breeding of new varieties is not being done yet here very much. After BP1 and Up to Date are still being grown, interesting enough, in Mondial. And production costs. I saw about the emerging farmers' land security. Those are all issues that I saw as being apparently challenges you face here. And the opportunities are on the other side. A potato breeding platform for South Africa, why not? Cisgenics, and will that be accepted by your government, by your policymakers? Diploid true seed platform, is that a possibility for you in South Africa? You're already doing a lot of work on the soil health and biostimulants. I heard that already over and over again. And the lobbying again, I heard that too, for better agrochemicals and biostimulants that could be allowed by law. We'll talk more about that in our discussion, I'm sure. In closing, I just want to say that our next Congress, the website is up. It's in Kenya next year, October 26th. It's the 30 in Naivasha, which is a beautiful city on a lake west of Nairobi. And from there, the potato growing area is right nearby. And I hope that many of you will come. I think some of you will be asked to be speakers, and I look forward to seeing you there to learn together with the rest of Africa and the world about what you're doing in South Africa and vice versa. So with that, thank you very much. This is from our farm in Canada, and thank you very much.